has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
It's Ferrall on the bench in the biggest way possible, hanging out. We are live in Sin City, the Mega Hub, beautiful downtown Las Vegas, baby, at the MGM Grand in the Boxing Media Center in the middle of it all. It's a $110 outside. How about a little Thursday C2C along with my boy, Joey Prance, a.k.a. Go for the Two, a.k.a. Dad Girl, a.k.a. Joe, college football's insider, Lisi, my man back in New York. And listen to this. Your boy Joe Lisi is old school boxing. I mean, old school. When I came in here today, all the old timers saw me. They're like, Ferrall, good to see you, Ferrall, blah, blah, blah. And then I told Joe, I said, all the old guys know me. None of the young guys know me. Like the young kids that are fighting now have never heard of me, but I've been doing this for 35 years. And then, Joe, you told me you used to freak out and watch all the boxing, the Golden Gloves at the Garden, USA Network, Friday Night Fights.
This is it, brother. This is what it's all about. I mean, Sean O'Grady and the crew. I mean, talk about old school. Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Razor Ruddock, Mike Tyson. I mean, Evander Holyfield. I'll even throw in Skipper Kelp, the welterweight back in the day. So love the fight game. We have Tank Davis, one of the best up-and-coming fighters. Did knock out and take care of business with Garcia. Hopefully he can get it done Saturday night.
You know, we'll talk a lot more about that as we go, but in essence, he knocked him into the crazy house. I mean, he made him he beat him so bad like a rented mule. The guy ended up in the Waldorf in Beverly Hills, destroying property, breaking things, getting arrested, getting thrown into a mental ward. They threw him into a mental hospital to evaluate him. Joe, you know it's a bad day when they tell you you're going to have to go be evaluated.
That's it. It's a tough one, Scotty. I'll tell you this. But I will say this about the fight game, right? It started with maybe Tank Davis and Garcia. We saw the fight with Garcia and Haney play out about a couple of months ago. You saw Wilder get knocked out and Tyson Fury as well lose. I mean, the fight game is back, baby. Everybody talks MMA and UFC. Boxing's back in a big way. This is a big headline fight, and if this lives up to expectations, I'll tell you what, maybe we'll get more fans involved in the sweet science.
You know, I would love that. I've been coming for 35 years to all the fights. I started with HBO, and then I worked for Showtime for at least 2 decades, however long Showtime was in business, right? And then it went to PBC, Premier Boxing on Fox. Now they're doing it on Prime. This will be on pay-per-view on Prime Video on Saturday night at the Grand Garden Arena here at the magnificent MGM Grand on the Strip in Vegas. But I've been coming for over 35 years, and I hadn't been since COVID. So it's been a 4-year dry spell. And in that window, Joe, I feel like boxing has been passed by the UFC with certainty. I mean, it's just obvious that they've passed them. But now, like you had mentioned, I thought that the Usyk fight was unbelievable, so I watched it, right? And he was landing lefts and just hurting him and knocking him wobbly. He could barely stand. He was holding on to the ropes. I thought that was a great day for boxing because I've seen that guy drop against Wilder. I don't know how he got up in that 12th round. I was at that fight. I went to all 3 of those fights, by the way. And really, that was the best that they had to offer us. It was 3 times watching Fury and Wilder. You had the the win, the draw, then he beat his ass. And then Wilder now is, I think, finished after what I saw the other day. He got just destroyed by that Asian dude, just hammered him and knocked his ass out clean, flush. But now we're seeing stars like Tank, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Ghost Martin does against him. Tank knocks guys out. He's 27 knockouts in 29 fights. Devin Haney, you mentioned. Shakur Stevenson. There's a lot of great fighters, young. Now, I think this is a hit on Ryan Garcia. What's happened to him is not good for him. I think that, obviously, since the Tank Davis fight, he hasn't been the same.
No, he hasn't. And, they brought up the weight issue in regards to that first fight in terms of him cutting weight, not being able to hydrate. And, that might have been one factor. They did mention potentially after this fight that Davis, and hopefully if Ryan Garcia does, pan out in regards to the mental situation, that they fight, in terms of a rematch. But I will say this about the younger fighters, Scotty, is that when you get these welterweights or middleweights, like you mentioned, right, we have a good core group of about 4 or 5 stars. That's where you get the technique. That's where you get, the ability to counterpunch. That really maybe fascinates fans because the heavyweights bring it in terms of the power. These are where the fighters really concentrate on technique and really, the ability to really be at the elite level of boxing. So that's where I like watching the welterweights and the middleweights because the hand speed is phenomenal.
Yeah, and they're actually boxing, right? They're point fighting, they're landing their jab, the counter, the crosses, the hooks, the cuts underneath. They're actually boxing, whereas these other guys, like you said, are throwing heavy hands and more bombs and haymakers, as opposed to what you had earlier mentioned, the sweet science, which is what it is. Great boxers, I've always believed, are, the speed boxers. So I go back to like Sugar Ray Leonard, right? And I was at all those. I was at many great fights through the years, and one of my favorite guests I ever had here, and I think Mafia was with me the day we had him. In fact, I think SportsGrid was here with me when we had him. It was Thomas Hitman Hearns. I think it was our first year on SportsGrid, and we were here, and we did an interview with Hearns. And I remember, Joe, going to Hearns fights, and I mean to tell you, he was so violent, the way he hit. And Hagler, those two are, I think, in terms of my life, the two most violent fighters I ever saw, besides Mike Tyson that threw bombs. I thought Mike was trying to knock everyone out with one punch. I actually thought, Tommy and I think Marvin, they actually wanted to go 12, 15 rounds and beat each other to death. I mean, they enjoyed the violence of it and going to war. Do you remember the fight they had in the first round? It was the greatest round in boxing history, where they threw like 5 million punches in one round. I don't know how finish that fight. I want to tell you, Joe, I'm really excited to have you doing the show with me today. I've always loved you. I never knew you had such a passion for boxing, because I've always known you as this exotic football bettor in the college and pros, and a big fan of college cheerleaders like I am, and pom-poms and everything. You know how I get emotional. But I wanted to tell you, we'll have fun today. This is the lineup that we have, alleged lineup. I always like to defer, because there is potential for this to change due to time constraints and constrictions. Here we go. We're going to have Gary Antoine Russell. I think he's like the 6th brother of the Russell family. There was the dad and 6 sons. My man was busy in the sack, along with my good friend Leonard Ellerby of Mayweather Promotions. And Leonard and I am Leonard's only white friend. I am truly Leonard's only white friend. He loves me, so we're going to have fun with him. Allegedly, the monster, David Benavidez, today on Coast to Coast. If that happens, I may pull my pants down, Joe. If the monster shows up to do this interview, there could be potential. Now, I have had Fury show up with leather leopard shoes on his feet. He did an interview with me with alligator shoes on. It was a miracle. Also, we're We're going to have Coach Young. We're going to have Alexander Vodzik, the guy fighting Benavidez, Gausha. We're going to have Steven Espinoza. A big day from Vegas at the MGM Grand.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
4-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's the BetMGM offer of the week. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. For all the games in the NBA Finals. Set your picks and shoot your shot. And turn any game into a must-watch. Download the BetMGM app, and it's on.
All right, so we're back in Vegas at the MGM Grand, and we're getting ready for Saturday night on Prime pay-per-view, the premier boxing card featuring Tank Davis against Frank the Ghost Martin, and, of course, David Benavidez fighting as well against Vodzik, the Ukrainian, and a guy that has heavy hands. I just wanted to say to Joe, because, you know, I don't know if it bothers Joe. I've never asked him because usually I'll talk to Joe about his daughters or, you know, life outside of SportsGrid, or, you know, who's he betting on Saturday? Who should I bet on the late night primetime games, the totals, things of this nature. But Joe does have, I don't know if you realize this, Joe, you have rock star status with me because you have accumulated, unlike any other, multiple nicknames. Like, you have so much juice with me that you have multiple nicknames as opposed to everyone else that just has one. You know, like, Mafia's, you know, rock star status, but he's got Mafia. You know, like, everyone's got Carver High, and then but you've got literally hundreds of nicknames. And I didn't know if that bothered you over time, because I've known you for several years from hanging out in airports and traveling and going to events and Super Bowls and everything else. And I've never actually asked you if I drive you nuts with all the nicknames that I have for you, because I know the recent addition of Joey Prawns, I wondered if it had upset you, because that was it, I think, the Rose Bowl, when you showed up with giant fist-sized shrimp for me to eat with cocktail sauce. He immediately became Joey Prawns. And I wanted to know if all of your many nicknames, A to Z, if it irritates you or if you are cool with it and down with it.
I am down with. Why would I be upset about it? It's for one of, I guess, many personalities. I'm an acquired taste, so depending upon the day, you either love me or hate me. You can have multiple nicknames for me, so I love it. I have no problem with it. I will say this. When you first gave me the nickname Prawns, I go, what the heck is he talking? I had to Google it. I didn't even know what you were talking about with the prawns. So I don't even eat shrimp. I brought the shrimp in for everybody else, so I'm cool with it.
Revolution. So, Joe, rich people call shrimp cocktails prawns if they're big enough. They got to be, Caribbean. They got to be Caribbean sized. They got to be, there's nothing worse than small shrimp cocktails, like the little mini ones or the ones that are just average in a restaurant. But when you go to the restaurant and it's the size of a fist and it opens up like a cauliflower, like the ones that you bought and brought to SportsGrid at Bellworks, that's prawn status, Joey Prawns. It elevates you to a higher level and higher expectations, and you've lived up to it. So a couple other things. I did run into Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports. Boy, it'll be fascinating to talk to him today. I saw him in the hall. He's like, Ferrall, what up, kid? And I was like, good to see you, Steven. What's weird for me is that, I'm just glad I remember people when I see them, like their names. When I run into people that I haven't seen in a few years, it's a good sign that I recognize people and remember their names, because there's nothing worse than the guy that goes, hey, do you remember me? What's my name? And I always tell them the same thing. I don't have to know. I don't have to know your name, bro. It's you asked for it. You're going to get it. You come right out with it. So we're also going to talk to later today on the show. I actually think the last one that we're going to have on is my man Scott Preston from the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Now, he's the GM of the arena. You have to understand, at the end of the day, Joe, he put this whole thing together with Bruce Binkow of Premier Boxing and Al Heyman. And this is the 100th fight anniversary of the Grand Garden Arena. And I've literally, I'm not even kidding you. I've seen maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 of those fights at this arena over the years. So this is the guy that's responsible for this big event. And they have like a Hall of Fame, if you will, set up here for this weekend outside of the arena, so people can see it's the history of the arena and of all the great fights that have taken place here. And it's right outside the media center here. And I mean, it is going to be bustling over the next couple of days leading up to Saturday night's fights. A lot of great fights in this building. I think, Joe, people forget once they built the T-Mobile Arena across the street for the Knights and for the UFC, that people forgot about the Grand Garden Arena. But it's a great boxing venue.
It is. And, we talk about the Mecca of basketball being Madison Square Garden in New York. This is the Mecca of fighting. So MGM does a fantastic job. I mean, they put out a great number of fights. Back in the day, I know that Sugar Ray and Hagler did fight in that arena back when they were champions. So those were the fights that I remember. And you're just talking about just a long list of just 100 fights. It's just something that's unprecedented. So hopefully this fight lives up to expectations. I think it will. And hopefully Tank Davis does win, because I'm going to be rooting for him on Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll talk about later the ways that he could win and what to bet on and what your favorite bets are for the fight on Saturday night. So Benavidez, obviously the co-main, and then Tank, the main event. And my son is here with me. I brought my son to Vegas. He likes going to the fights. So I'm going to take him to the fights Saturday night. We're stoked. And then tonight I'm actually, listen to this, Joe. Tonight I'm going back old school. I'm really doing it tonight, Joe. I'm going to see the Grateful Dead at the Sphere.
Nice.
I have expensive seats to see the Grateful Dead. I asked the head of Premier Boxing, Bruce Binkow, if he thought I should drop acid or not tonight. He said that would not be a good idea based on my current status of my heart and that I have to work tomorrow.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Right where we ought to be, in Vegas, live for the big fight Saturday night at the Grand Garden Arena at the MGM Grand and MGM Resorts International. Thank God for them bringing us out, and Premier Boxing. A pleasure to be here. Just like I said, where we ought to be, back covering big fights. I've done it my entire career. I'm honored, thrilled, and excited to be here, and stoked to have Joe Lisi with me today on from New York at SportsGrid. So, Joe, I was on a plane last night, and I flew late and got here late. It didn't stop me from going out and drinking rum until 4 in the morning, but I did arrive late, and I wanted to say that I didn't see any of the Mavs loss. I saw highlights when Mafia and I went out, let's just say tipping. I saw the highlights of them coming back. I think I saw it when it got up to about 93-90, and then I saw those 2 calls against Doncic. What's your thoughts on Boston up 3? It's over.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. And, you know, credit Jason Tate and Jaylen Brown for stepping up, 31 points, 30 points respectively. They stepped up. They made plays offensively, and they made plays defensively. I thought for Dallas, Scotty, they had the right type of game plan. I mean, Kyrie and Luka, 55 shots between them. I mean, it was going right as, you know, the game script was planned for Dallas. Tied at the half. They had a terrible third quarter that allowed Boston to jump up 21 points, 91-70. Then they cut it to 93-92, and they just can't find ways to stop off. Now, the questionable call maybe on Luka, but I thought he played a terrible game defensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he had about 20 points at half finishes with 27. He's chucking up threes. He was 1 of 7 for 3, especially in the second half of that game, was unnecessary. And unfortunately, I believe he cost them the game last night.
And he fouled out with 4 minutes left in the middle of their comeback. Did you, because I saw the 2 calls.
Right.
I saw the drive-by hack, and I saw him try to take the charge. Did you feel that they were bad calls? And then I'm not surprised at all. He melted down, as he always does, attacking, cussing out refs. And then I saw a story today, even after the fact, of the Mavericks, frankly, are sick and tired of it, of his, treatment of the refs.
Right.
He never stops lighting him up and cussing him out and throwing temper tantrums and complaining and crying about calls. And meanwhile, he's such an incredible player, unbelievable, undeniable, unstoppable, all the rest. But it's like it's tarnishing his reputation with his behavior. The bottom line is he's been getting cooked in this series like chicken on the grill. I mean, he's getting cooked, and they're finished. Did you think he acted like an idiot last night?
I did, and I backed the Mavericks last night. I did hit with Kyrie with the 4 threes and 35 points, but when you get that type of production from Kyrie and you're Luka, you should finish. You're supposed to be the leader of that team, offensively and defensively, and it started in the first half. Every 3-point shot, Scotty, look at the tape. He was falling down, looking for a continuation, looking for a foul. He didn't want to play any defense last night. Yeah, the charge, it could have went 50-50. I thought potentially it was a bad call, but at the end of the day, that's a 50-50 call. He did not play a stitch of defense last night, and he's been abused throughout the series.
Let's listen to Derek White and Jaylen Brown pushing the Celtics up further late in the fourth on ABC.
On the drive, kicks it back out. White puts up a 3. Bang! Derek White from downtown, and it's back up to 6. Brown using the screen. Drives, pulls up, jump shot, puts it in. Jaylen Brown now with 30, and the lead back up to 4.
So I'll say this, Joe. In all due respect, right? I feel like the Celtics are an unbelievable team. The way they move the ball and the way they push it and get good looks and take good shots and hit those shots and finish and score and go to the 10 and shoot threes. They do everything right. They play both ends of the floor. I won't disrespect how good they are. But I have to tell you, I think it's a horrible look for the NBA to have a series this bad. I mean, this is the NBA Finals, and this has been embarrassing. I mean, it really has been. They never had a chance, frankly, in either game in Boston, and then to go home and get beat again and be down 3, it's ugly.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to party in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Ferrall with you from the MGM Grand along with Joe Lisi in New York on the grid. So a little bit more on this game. Let's hear from Joe Mazzulla. He says the Celtics just have to keep doing what got him here to end up as champions. Joe's still unwilling to admit that his team is kicking the Mavs' ass and this series is over.
Yeah, I mean, just stick to the things that we've been doing. I mean, have an understanding. I think, we were down 13. I expected that. We were down 1.5. I expected that. So you got to expect the expected. You got to understand that, we're just as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable than they are. And we have to play that way. And so as long as we have that mindset, when you understand that you're vulnerable and your back's against the wall, you got to fight. And so that's the mindset that we have to have.
So as I was talking about before about Luka with Joe, here he is, Doncic, complaining about the refs after fouling out for the first time in a playoff game in his career. Here we go.
Luka, what did you think of the whistles that went against you in the fourth quarter?
I mean, I don't know. We couldn't play physical, so I don't know. I don't want to say nothing, but, 6 foul in the NBA Finals, where I'm like this. Come on, man. Better than that.
Yeah, I don't agree with him at all. I think he... it's funny, Joe. He acts like he never does anything. He acts like he never commits a foul. He acts like every call is against him. I have never seen a guy, and I've said this to Coach Young a million times, I've never seen a guy get the and-one and still complain. He gets the call, he goes to the line to shoot the and-one, he still complains. He complains when he gets calls, he complains. I've never seen a guy do that, actually complaining when he's going to the line 18 times in a game.
No, you're right. I mean, here's the thing, too. You listen to that press conference and he goes, you want to play hard, you want to play physical. Does he do that on the defensive side of the ball? Because I think he's soft on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think he's a great defender. And that is mainly that's a main reason why they're down 3-0. He's getting abused, though, Scotty. And then when he does step up, he commits fouls and then he complains. So it goes both ways, though. I mean, he played and he won calls on the offensive side of the ball. And that call last night could have went either way. But at the end of the day, you got to play better defense overall.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joe. Do you think that I'm wrong in saying that they'll never admit it. No one will ever admit it on ABC or the network or, Breen, Doris, JJ, anybody. Even the pregame and halftime, postgame shows, they won't admit it. But this is a terrible NBA Finals. It's not terrible for Boston Celtic fans. It's not terrible for the Boston Celtics organization because they have truly shredded the Mavericks to pieces. But I just think it's a terrible. Now, honestly, this is supposed to be the pinnacle of the league season. It's supposed to be, competitive. It's supposed to be awesome. It's supposed to be unforgettable. But it is the exact opposite, Joe. It is so forgettable. They should cancel the last game. They should just end it now and give them the trophy because it's so over. Now, I'm sure, do you remember what series was it? Minnesota finally won a game. I think the game 4, they finally won a game. And everybody got all hot and bothered, and Ann Edwards started predicting they were going back to whatever, Dallas. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm saying that series was terrible as well. And then they won a game, and everybody fell for it like it was going to get good. Well, it never does. It's not going to get good because Boston has killed them.
Yeah, and it's not even if they win Game 4, they're not getting this back to Game 7. I'd be stunned if they get it to a Game 7. So even though they might win Game 4, they got no shot to win it right now. And then this is talking from somebody that actually backed them for the series. I thought that they would win it in 6. I actually took them plus 2.5 games at plus money. They got no shot now, Scotty. So they might salvage one game, but body language and the way the press conference went last night, blaming everybody and not taking an accountability, they can't rebound from this. So I agree with you in terms of the NBA. You want to have compelling drama. You want to have Game 6, Game 7, very tough series to fight out. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that, and a lot of that is due to the fact that Luka and Kyrie, for the first 3 games, for the most part, from a consistent effort, offensively and defensively, they never played 4 quarters.
Yeah, I thought Luka did his normal 30-10, double-double, then, triple-double, but he plays no defense. And then when you have the first 2 games in Boston where Kyrie Irving was pathetic, that guy having 16 is like, that's a terrible game for him. This is a guy that should be doing what he did last night, every night, and he does not play well against the Boston Celtics. He does not play well ever against the Celtics, and he does not play well in the Garden in Boston. Then he finally goes home and has a game, but then Tatum and Brown still showed him up with the 31-30 effort. So I just think there's been an inconsistency about him. Lucas scores, complains, doesn't play D. Kyrie does nothing again, then does something while his teammates fouling out and hacking. I just think they've been rather porous at the end of the day, and frankly, the rest of their core has been anemic at best. Can we look at the graphic for Game 4? I see no reason for this to change, Joe. I don't see any reason for them not to sweep them.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not going to bet a side here. I already have the Mavericks for the series. Do lean to the under because we haven't seen one game fly through the total. Even though last night started as an up-tempo type of game, they failed to get there in the end, especially from an in-game perspective. I will say this, though, absolutely right, and I feel like Dallas, Scotty, is taking the series almost like a regular season series. They were walking through the motions for Game 1. They were down 30 points in Game 1. This is the NBA Finals. You cannot take this and be like, we're just going to walk through the motions, score our 30 or 25 respectively, and expect to win a championship. I mean, somebody needs to tell Luka that. You have to play your A game each and every game. I don't understand. He's like walking through the motions.
The other thing is, I got to be honest with you. I'm sick of, and I'm not trying to be a jerk either. I'm kind of sick of hearing Jason Kidd talk about we just need to have fun. What? What's fun about getting your ass beat every night? Like, what fun? Why is it fun? I don't understand fun. When you're in the championship series of any sport, of a 7-game series, whether it's baseball, whether it's hockey, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the NCAA tournament, all this talk about we just want to go out and have fun. Mafia and I went out drinking last night. Now that's fun. I don't find fun losing in the NBA Finals. What fun is there? This isn't an amusement park.
No, I'm with you, Scotty. And you know what the funny thing is, too, is that Luka and all the best players want to be looked at as like these elite players and compare them to MJ and all the greats. Well, the greats and MJ cared about championships. They gave their 150% each and every night. These guys don't give you that.
I mean, Michael Jordan just as soon die than lose a game. And I mean, honestly, like, I watched that 30 for 30 again of the 86 Celtics, how good they were, the way they passed to each other, moved the ball, McHale, Big Red, Bird, Parrish. That team was they annihilated people. There was no having fun. It was fun annihilating people. That's what it was.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogeys, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
All right, so.
I'm all right.
All right, so. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves here one at a time. Gary.
Yes.
So we're right here on TV. Tell everybody. Just say what up. Tell them who you are.
How y'all doing? I'm Gary Antoine Russell, getting ready to perform June 15th, the day after my birthday. I guess this could be a birthday present to myself. Y'all stay tuned because it's going to be an action-packed fight.
All right, champ. Tell them who you are.
Man, this is Mr. Gary Russell Jr., man, one of the longest reigning champions of the sport of boxing today.
So you guys got to be stoked to be putting on a show Saturday night. How cool is it for the 100th anniversary of the Grand Garden Arena to be part of this weekend? It's a historic weekend. And I just told you, I've been coming to fights here since the jump, since day one. I've been at every fight that ever happened in this building, and it's good to be back. What does it mean to you to be a part of it?
Man, it means a lot, man. It was so crazy. The sanctioning body, Mauricio and WBC, they surprised me and the family with this award, the Juneteenth belt. You know, and I think it's just a pleasure.
It's beautiful.
Man.
I was thinking about knocking you out and taking that belt back to my city.
I don't don't think he's good enough to do it.
I was just close. Son, I'm 6'4", 240.
That shit, hey, look, size.
I'm going to bring a truck on you, son. I'll truck you.
Hey, you bring a truck.
I am a truck. The first time when I got here today, I got here today, and my guy said to me, because I had open heart surgery in November, and the guy said to me, he goes, man, you got fat since I seen you last. I go, but I'm tough in the low block. I'm tough to move in the low block, son. So I'm reading about your family, right? And
that's right.
How in God's name do you have to deal with that many brothers beating your ass when you're a kid? Honestly, because I just had to deal with one sister. She was tougher than me and bigger than me and 2 years older than me. And she was like one of them broads who used to try to knock me out when I was just a little tyke and I wasn't having any of it. How do you deal with 6 brothers and your dad was a freak?
See, to be honest with you, our family, now don't get me wrong.
Honestly.
Every family has a little bit of shit with it. You know what I'm saying? I think what made the difference within our family was that we understood the concept of order. You know,
the pecking order.
There you go. We understand the concept of order, so it was never a sense of anything like that. You know.
So, how much older are you than him? You're the young buck, right?
He the baby.
Yeah. I'm the baby. It was more so because of that pecking order that we lived by. It was things that we didn't like to do due to it being an order, but that built humility.
There you go.
So that's something that we live with, and we take that on with our journey in life now.
What is your nickname they gave you? The nickname they gave you is the last one?
The last.
In the ring, yeah, the last Russell.
Yeah.
Is that what they call you?
They called me Antoine outside in the home. They called me Antoine.
The last one.
In the ring. They called me the last Russell.
And are you down with that? Like, did you like when they nicknamed you and gave you that nickname, or did you want to create your own thing?
You can name me Twan Adon.
Twan Adon, I like that. Twan Adonis.
They call
it Don.
He called himself Twan Adon. But as far as boxing, you know, when everyone has their ring names and stuff.
Right.
It's a couple of us that compete, but he's the last Russell.
I know he is.
You know, so
he's the last one.
Sweet.
So your dad trained like every one of you?
There you go.
And then does he demand like grandchildren now or something out of this? He's gotta want something.
I gotta tell you
the old man has to want something.
I gotta tell you a story if that's the case.
He's got all the juice.
I'll make it quick. My father did want some grandkids, and he wanted boys.
Yeah, I'll bet he wanted boys.
He started having females. And he was like, damn,
he started having females.
He's like, damn,
are you a girl dad?
Why I keep having girls?
You gotta let me see it. You gotta let me see it.
Are you a girl dad?
No.
I'm a girl dad.
I'm a girl dad. So this is funny. So my father, he had all boys. He had a lot of boys. And
he's a champion.
There you go.
Right,
and he raised men. And he raised men. So when I started having my children, I started having daughters, and I have four girls, 2 boys. So I started having daughters, and we did the sonogram, and I finally said, "Oh shit, it's a boy." So I told my father, I said, "Pops, guess what? I'm having a boy." His response was, "Good, you finally got all the bitch out."
Yeah, because listen, you know, when you had 4 daughters, and then you finally had a son. You had to be relieved because I got lucky. My first one was a son, and I brought him to the fights. He's going to the fights with me tomorrow night or Saturday night. He's here. He's sleeping. He's sleeping it off. He's upstairs sleeping it off. He goes to San Diego State. He's in college. But when I had a boy, I remember running out of the hospital with a cigar, and I got like stoned, and I was drinking, and I was like, I had a boy, because I was messed up. I was a thug punk, you know, drank, partied. No way am I having a son. And then I had a son. But then when I had a daughter, it was pretty cool because I could, you know, offset it, and I'm a girl.
Both worlds, man.
So she's like a hoop star. She plays ball in New York City. She can really fill it up. So I thought it was cool having both. But I know that if you have 4 girls and your old man of all people, you didn't have a boy, he'd start blaming you. He wouldn't even let you come home for Christmas.
Listen, I'm telling you, when I told my father and we had the sonogram, I said, "Pops, guess what? I'm having a boy." His response was, "Good, you finally got all the bitch out you."
See that? You're fighting this cat, Puello, right?
Yes, right.
What are you going to do to him? Because he said he saw some weakness in you, and I know there are no weaknesses in you, so he just flapping. He's flapping, and you're going to be dropping his head.
Talking out the side of his neck, that's all.
There you go.
He got a little leak over here.
He got a big one. A big leak, talking like that.
Where are you living and training out of?
Back at home, definitely in Maryland.
Baltimore boys.
We got
No, not Baltimore. We're closer to the D.C. side.
Oh, so you're like away from the Beltway.
Yeah, we're closer to the D.C.
It's still relatively D.C. So definitely training from home. We in shape. We've been doing a lot of good work.
Guys, I love you. Thanks for coming on. You're badasses. I think I've run out of time. It's unbelievable.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Once a day, play the BetMGM free-to-play Swing for the Fences for a chance to win great daily prizes. Play as a batter, pick an area of the strike zone. You get a single, double, triple, homer, fly out. You play it on the daily basis. BetMGM Sportsbook account holders who play Swing for the Fences are going to have an opportunity to win great prizes if they get a hit. Reward types include parlay boost tokens, odds boost tokens, single game parlay boost tokens, bonus spins in eligible casino states, and bonus bets even. All rewards expire in 24 hours. You're going to love it. Check it out at betmgm.com. Download the mobile app on iOS or Android. You're going to love it. I highly recommend trying the first 1,500 bonus bet deal. Here's the deal. You can bet on anything. And once you open your account, bet on anything. Bet up to $1,500. If you lose the bet, they're going to give you $1,500 in bonus bets into your mobile app account once the wager is settled. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened in America. I truly believe that. And now you can play Swing for the Fences. And, you know, it's funny. Mafia's been playing Swing for the Fences for weeks, and he's yet to get a hit. I think he was more of a beer league softball guy. He hasn't had a hit. Carver High's already had like 9 hits. He's got boost tokens. Mafia, last night I'm out with him having a bullet. He says to me, he goes, "That stupid game." Can't see that ball coming in that fast. So we're sitting on the plane, right, Joe? And, that long flight to Vegas, I mean, that's a real killer. And I'm on this flight, and it was jam-packed. I mean, it was so full. And I passed out. It's like we leave at like 9 p.m. in New York. I pass out. Here comes the chick with the booze cart, right? And she nailed me. I'm like, so I'm sitting in my chair, whatever you call it, and I'm sitting there, and I'm out cold, and like my elbow was over the seat, and here she comes. Bam! She smashes into me, and I was like, ah! And I woke up, and then like 10 minutes later, I passed out again, and my brother came down the aisle like the stewardess. He's like a guy stewardess, and he bashed into my knee and woke me up again. And then like an hour later, they came back for the second round of drinks, and the chick hit me again. She nailed me again with the cart. So what happened was, I was watching over this guy's shoulder, and he was watching cricket. He was watching West Indies against New Zealand in cricket. Now, I don't know anything about cricket and wickets and all this other stuff, Joe. I'm sure you do. You bet on everything. Joe bets on Korean baseball. But I watched cricket last night, an entire game with no volume over some Indian guy's head. I watched, he had a giant tablet, and he had the game going on it. And I sat there and watched the sport where the guy runs and he throws the pitch into the ground, and the dude swings with that big wooden mallet and tries to hit the ball all over the field. This is what I did for 5 hours straight. I got attacked by stewardesses. I drank rum and I watched cricket. Do you think I will become a cricket fan or a cricket bettor, Joe?
It's possible, but you're gonna have to wait days. That's why I don't bet. That's why I don't bet cricket. I don't, anything that lasts more than 3 hours, 3.5 hours, I'm toast. So you never catch me betting cricket. I know it's like baseball, and I know they have a short game and an extended version. But that aside, you got to cry to the refs like Luka Doncic. Why don't you cry to the head steward? Tell him you were fouled multiple times. Get a couple of free drinks. Get a couple of free drinks.
You would have thought that I would have got a couple of free drinks out of it. I mean, honestly.
You should have fell in the aisle. You should have fell in the aisle. That's it. Sell it. And the N won.
I'm telling you. It's unbelievable. So I want to go back to one thing before we get out of this NBA talk for today, all right? And that's, who do you think gets the Laker job? Borrego, Redick, somebody else? You know what I said the other day after the Hurley deal fell through? I don't care if they hire Satan as their coach. I'm done with it. Like the way they dragged us from Thursday to whatever, Monday or whatever it was, till I think we found out Monday that he wasn't taking a job. Who do you think gets the job? Because I don't care.
I don't care either, but I think it would be Redick. He was on the radar before. He has the relationship with LeBron, and maybe they went for Hurley. It didn't pan out. Now they'll go back to Redick, I believe.
So when we come back to Vegas, we got a lot of people scheduled to come on the show, a lot of guests. It's going to be crazy because, I see one of my guests right now starting to do another show, and he's supposed to be on with us in 2 minutes. We're screwed.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home,
for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with the injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.